The great hall of the Sarani Palace was unlike anything Kang Taeho had ever seen. Crystal pillars rose from the floor like frozen waterfalls. Light moved through them in slow waves of blue and purple. The ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Everything here was designed to make visitors feel small, and it worked. Tai-ho stood among the human delegation, wearing his formal diplomatic uniform. He was 32 years old, with tired eyes and a calm face that hid his nervousness well. He had been a diplomat for 7 years, but this was his first time on an alien world. Earth had only made contact with the Sarani Empire 3 years ago. Humanity was still new to the galactic stage. The Sarani themselves were beautiful in a strange way. They were tall and thin, with skin that ranged from pale silver to deep blue. Their eyes glowed softly in colors like violet, gold, and green. They moved with perfect grace as if every step was part of a dance. They lived for thousands of years and considered humans to be children playing at civilization. Tonight was the final banquet of the diplomatic summit. For 2 weeks, humans and Sarani had talked about trade, borders, and cooperation. Everything had gone smoothly. Too smoothly, Tai-ho thought. The Sarani were polite but distant. They smiled but never laughed. They agreed to small things but avoided big commitments. Something was wrong, but Tai-ho could not figure out what. Park Ji-soo, his fellow diplomat and close friend, stood beside him. She was a short woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She leaned close and whispered, "The Queen is coming. Try not to look so nervous." "I am not nervous," Tai-ho whispered back. "Your left eye is twitching." Tai-ho forced his face to relax. He hated that Ji-soo knew him so well. A great door opened at the far end of the hall. Music filled the air, played by instruments that humans had no names for. The crowd of Sarani nobles parted like water, and Queen Nira entered. She was ancient. Tai-ho had read that she was over 8,000 years old, but she looked like a woman in her prime, with silver skin and eyes like burning stars. She wore a gown made of something that looked like liquid light. A crown of floating crystals circled her head. Power radiated from her like heat from a fire. The queen walked to her throne and sat down. Her eyes moved across the room and stopped on the human delegation. Tai-ho felt those eyes on him like a physical weight. "Honored guests from Earth," the queen said. Her voice was soft but carried to every corner of the hall. "You have traveled far to meet with us. You have shown patience and respect. For this, we are grateful." Tai-ho bowed his head slightly. This was expected. He waited for the usual diplomatic words about friendship and cooperation. But the queen smiled, and something in that smile made Tai-ho's stomach tighten. "To honor this new bond between our peoples," the queen continued, "I wish to present a gift to the human delegation, a gift of great value." The doors opened again. 2 Sarani guards entered, and between them walked a young woman. She was Sarani but different from the others. Her skin was a lighter shade of blue, almost like the morning sky. Her hair was dark, falling past her shoulders in soft waves. Her eyes were violet, but they were not glowing with confidence like the other Sarani. They were dim, afraid. She wore a simple white dress, and her hands were clasped in front of her like she was trying to hold herself together. She walked with her head down, not looking at anyone. The queen gestured toward her. "This is Vela. She is of royal blood, my own niece. I gift her to your delegation as a symbol of our alliance." Tai-ho felt the blood drain from his face. He looked at Ji-soo. She looked back at him with wide eyes. "Your Majesty," Captain Yoon Hana spoke up. She was the commander of the human ship Horizon, a stern woman with gray in her hair. "We are honored by your generosity, but I must ask for clarification. What do you mean by gift?" The queen's smile did not change. "I mean exactly what I say, Captain. Vela is now the property of your delegation. She will serve you in whatever capacity you require." The hall was silent. The Sarani nobles watched with expressions that showed nothing. They had known this was coming, Tai-ho realized. This was planned. "With respect, Your Majesty," Tai-ho said, stepping forward before he could stop himself. "Humans do not accept people as gifts. We do not own other beings. This is not our way." A murmur went through the Sarani crowd. Several nobles looked offended. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "You refuse my gift?" she asked. Her voice was still soft. but there was ice in it now. I mean, no offense, Taiho said quickly, but we cannot, then she will die. The words hit Taiho like a punch. He stared at the queen. What? Vela moved. She walked toward Taiho with slow, careful steps. When she reached him, she lowered herself to her knees. Her whole body was trembling. Please, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. The queen has gifted me to you, human. You must mate with me, or I will perish. Taiho stood frozen. He looked down at this woman kneeling before him, her violet eyes filled with fear and desperation. He looked at the queen, who watched with that cold smile. He looked at the Serani nobles, who showed no emotion at all. What is this? He demanded. What do you mean she will perish? The queen rose from her throne. Vela has entered the Verishin, the bonding fever. It is a biological process that all Serani females experience. She must form a mate bond within a certain time, or her body will fail. She will die slowly and painfully. Then let her bond with one of your own people, Taiho said. No Serani male will have her, the queen replied. Her bloodline is impure. She is considered unworthy. Rather than let her die in shame among our people, I offer her to you. Perhaps humans are more merciful than we are. Taiho understood now. This was not a gift. This was a test. The queen wanted to see how humans would react. Would they accept ownership of another being? Would they let an innocent woman die? Either way, the Serani would learn something about humanity. He looked down at Vela. Tears were forming in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She was waiting for him to reject her. She was waiting to hear that she would die. Taiho had never been so angry in his life. He reached down and gently took Vela's hands. He helped her stand. She looked at him with confusion and something that might have been hope. Come with me, he said quietly. You are not going to die. Not today. Not because of this. He turned and walked toward the door, still holding her hand. The human delegation followed. Captain Hana's face was hard. Jisu looked worried, but no one tried to stop them. The queen's voice followed them out. You have 30 days, human. After that, nothing can save her. Taiho did not look back. He kept walking, holding on to the hand of a woman he had just met. A woman whose life was now somehow tied to his. He had no idea what he was going to do. But he knew one thing for certain. He was not going to let her die. The human ship horizon felt cold and strange to Vela. Everything was made of metal and hard surfaces. There were no crystal pillars, no floating lights, no music in the walls. The humans walked with heavy steps and spoke with loud voices. They showed their emotions on their faces like children. But they had not thrown her away, not yet. Vela sat in a small room they called guest quarters. It was simple but clean. A bed, a desk, a window that showed the stars outside. She had been here for 3 hours and no one had come to claim her. No one had told her what to do. Among the Serani, she would have been given instructions immediately. She would have been told where to stand, how to speak, what was expected of her body. But the humans just left her alone with her thoughts. She did not know what to do with that. The door opened, and the human called Taiho entered. He carried a tray with food and a cup of something hot. He set it on the desk and looked at her. You should eat, he said. I do not know if human food will be good for you, but our medical team says it should be safe. Vela stared at the food. It looked strange. Colorful vegetables, some kind of grain, and strips of cooked meat. Nothing like the crystal fruits and light-infused drinks of her home. Why are you being kind to me? She asked. Taiho pulled a chair over and sat across from her. He did not sit too close. He gave her space. This surprised her. Because you need help, he said simply, and because what the queen did was cruel. You did not deserve that. Vela felt something twist in her chest. She had been called many things in her life. Impure, unworthy, a stain on the royal bloodline. But no one had ever said she did not deserve her fate. You do not understand, she said quietly. The queen did not punish me. She saved me. If I had stayed, I would have died in shame, alone and forgotten. At least this way, there was a chance. A chance that I would agree to own you? To mate with you against your will? Taiho's voice was hard. Not angry at her, she realized. Angry at the situation. It would not be against my will, Vela said. I would have consented. The Verashian does not care about feelings. It only cares about the bond. Taiho was quiet for a moment. Then he leaned forward. Tell me about this Verashian. Tell me everything. Vela closed her eyes. This was the part she had dreaded. Explaining her weakness. Explaining why she was dying. All Serani females go through it, she began. When we reach a certain age, our bodies change. We produce hormones that demand bonding. If we do not form a mate bond within the window, those same hormones begin to poison us. Our cells break down, our organs fail, we die. How long is the window? It varies. For most it is several months. For me, she paused. My mixed blood makes it worse. I have perhaps 30 days. Maybe less. Taiho ran a hand through his hair. He looked frustrated but not at her. And this bond, what does it require? Vela felt heat rise to her cheeks. Physical intimacy, emotional connection, the sharing of certain energies that our bodies produce. It is difficult to explain in your language. Is it just physical, or is there more to it? There is more. Vela looked at her hands. The bond is not just about bodies, it is about minds, hearts. Two beings becoming connected at a deep level. Among my people, mates can feel each other's emotions. They share dreams. When one is hurt, the other feels it. That sounds beautiful, Taiho said softly. Vela laughed, but there was no joy in it. It is supposed to be, but for people like me, it is a death sentence. No Serani male wants to be bonded to an impure female. Our children would carry my shame. Our connection would be polluted by my inferior blood. That is ridiculous. Vela looked up, startled by the anger in his voice. You are a person, Taiho said. Not a bloodline, not a list of ancestors. A person. And no person deserves to die because of who their parents were. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Vela felt tears building behind her eyes, but she forced them back. Crying was weakness. Crying was failure. You do not have to save me, she said. I have accepted my fate. I only ask that when I die, you send my ashes back to my mother. She is not royal. She has no power, but she loved me in her way. Taiho stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. His reflection in the glass looked tired and determined. You are not going to die, he said. You cannot know that. I know that I am not going to let it happen. He turned back to face her. I do not know how yet, but I will find a way. We will find a way together. Vela shook her head. Why? You do not know me. You owe me nothing. Among my people, you would be praised for letting me die. It would prove that humans are too weak to handle Serani affairs. I do not care what your people think, Taiho said, and I do not care about politics or praise. I care about you. A woman who was thrown away by her own family. A woman who was sent to strangers to die. You deserve better than that. The tears came then. Vela could not stop them. They fell down her cheeks like rain, and she covered her face with her hands in shame. Do not cry, she whispered to herself. Do not cry. Tears are weakness. Tears are... She felt warmth around her. Taiho was kneeling beside her, his hands gentle on her shoulders. Not grabbing, not demanding, just present. Among humans, he said softly, tears are not weakness. They are proof that you are alive, that you feel, that you care about something enough to hurt. Vela looked at him through her tears. His eyes were dark brown, warm like earth. Nothing like the cold glow of Serani eyes. You are strange, she said. So I have been told. A small sound escaped her. It might have been a laugh. She was not sure. She had not laughed in a very long time. The door opened and Park Jisoo entered. She looked at the scene before her, at Vela crying and Taiho kneeling beside her, and her expression softened. The medical team has finished their analysis, Jisoo said. They want to talk to both of you. Taiho helped Vela stand. Her legs were weak, but she managed. He did not let go of her hand. What did they find, he asked. Jisoo's face was serious. The Verashine is real. Her hormone levels are already critical. If we do not do something soon, she will start showing symptoms within a week. After that, she did not finish. Vela felt the cold reality settle back into her bones. For a moment, she had allowed herself to hope, but hope was a luxury she could not afford. There is something else, Jisoo said. She looked at Taiho with worry in her eyes. We received a message from the Sarani homeworld, from Captain Hana. Queen Nira is demanding updates on the bonding progress. She wants to know if Vela has been claimed. She is watching, Vela said quietly. She always watches. Taiho's jaw tightened. Then let her watch. Let her see what humans do when someone needs help. He looked at Vela. We are going to figure this out, not because of politics, not because of the Queen, because you matter. Do you understand? Vela did not understand. Not really, but for the first time in her life, she wanted to. She nodded slowly, and somewhere deep inside her, in a place that had been cold for so long, something began to warm. The days that followed were unlike anything Vela had experienced. Taiho did not claim her. He did not command her. He did not treat her like property or a burden. Instead, he treated her like a guest, like a friend. Every morning, he came to her quarters with breakfast. Human food was strange at first, but Vela found that she liked some of it. There was a hot drink called coffee that made her heart beat faster. There were sweet things called pastries that melted on her tongue. Taiho laughed when she ate 3 of them in a row. You have a sweet tooth, he said. I do not know what that means, Vela replied. My teeth are not sweet. Taiho laughed again. It was a warm sound. Vela found herself wanting to hear it more. After breakfast, they would walk through the ship together. Taiho showed her the engine room, where massive machines hummed with power. He showed her the observation deck, where she could see the stars stretching endlessly in all directions. He showed her the small garden where the crew grew vegetables and flowers. Humans need green things, he explained. Without them, we become sad. Our spirits need life around them. Vela touched a flower petal. It was soft and fragile. Among my people, we have crystal gardens. They last forever, but they are cold. Sometimes things that last forever are cold, Taiho said, and sometimes things that fade quickly are warm. That is the trade. Vela thought about this for a long time. In the afternoons, they would sit together and talk. Taiho asked her about her life, her world, her dreams. No one had ever asked her about her dreams before. She was not sure she had any. When I was young, she admitted, I dreamed of exploring the galaxy. I wanted to see other stars, other worlds. But females of my status do not explore. We wait. We prepare for bonding. We hope that someone will find us worthy. And if no one does, then we die. It is simple. Taiho shook his head. It is not simple. It is cruel. Vela was beginning to think he was right. She asked him about Earth, about humans. He told her about oceans that covered most of the planet, about mountains that touched the clouds, about cities filled with millions of people, all living together in chaos and noise and somehow making it work. Humans are messy, he said. We fight with each other. We make mistakes. We hurt the people we love. But we also forgive. We try again. We keep going, even when everything seems impossible. Why? Vela asked. Why keep going when there is no hope? Taiho smiled. It was a sad smile, but also strong. Because hope is not something you find. It is something you make. Sometimes you have to create it yourself, even when the universe tells you it is pointless. Vela did not fully understand, but the words stayed with her. In the evenings, Taiho taught her human music. The ship had a small collection of instruments, and he showed her how to play a simple one called a guitar. Her fingers were longer than human fingers, and she struggled at first. But Taiho was patient. He guided her hands, showed her where to press, how to move. When she finally played a simple melody correctly, she felt something she had not felt in years. Pride, joy, a sense that she had done something, created something that was hers alone. You are a natural, Taiho said. You are lying. Only a little. She hit his arm gently and he pretended to be wounded. They both laughed, and for a moment, Vela forgot that she was dying. Park Jisoo watched all of this with careful eyes. One evening, she pulled Taiho aside for a private conversation. Vela pretended not to notice, but her Sarani hearing was sharp. She heard every word. What are you doing? Jisoo asked quietly. You are getting attached to her. I am trying to save her life, Taiho replied. By playing music and eating breakfast together? The medical team says the only way to stop the Verishin is the bond. You know what that means. I know what the Serani think it means. But they also thought she was worthless. They were wrong about that. Maybe they are wrong about the bond too. Jisoo sighed. Taiho, I am your friend. I am telling you this because I care. If she dies, the queen will blame us. There could be war. Everything we have worked for could fall apart. I do not care about politics, Taiho said. His voice was firm but not angry. I care about her. She is not a tool for diplomacy. She is a person who deserves to be treated with respect. If that costs us an alliance, then maybe it was not worth having. There was silence. Then Jisoo spoke again, softer now. You are a good man, Taiho. Maybe too good. Just be careful. With your heart, I mean. Vela heard footsteps walking away. She lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. Her chest felt tight, but not from the Verishin. It was something else, something she did not have a name for. The next day, Taiho came to her with a proposal. I have been thinking, he said. Among the Serani, the bond is forced. It is about biology and duty. But what if we tried something different? What if we approached this the human way? What is the human way? Vela asked. We get to know each other. We spend time together. We build trust and respect. We let feelings develop naturally without pressure. And if in the end you want to bond with me, it will be your choice. Truly your choice. Vela stared at him. You would do this? Even knowing that time is running out? Time is always running out, Taiho said. Humans live short lives compared to your people. We learn to make the most of what we have. Every moment matters because we cannot waste them. And if the bond does not form, if I die anyway, Taiho's eyes were steady, then at least you will have lived your last days as a free person, not as property, not as a gift. As yourself, Vela, just Vela. Tears came to her eyes again. She was crying so much lately. Among her people, she would have been shamed for such displays. But Taiho had told her that tears meant she was alive. I do not know if I can do this, she whispered. I do not know how to be free. I have never been allowed. Taiho took her hand gently. His skin was warm against hers. Then we will learn together, he said, one day at a time. Vela looked at their joined hands. His fingers were shorter than hers, broader, rougher, but they held hers with a gentleness she had never known. One day at a time, she repeated. For the first time, the words did not sound like a death sentence. They sounded like a beginning. Captain Hana received another message from Queen Nira that night. The queen wanted to know why the bond had not been completed. She demanded answers. Hana sent a simple reply. The humans are handling this in their own way. Please be patient. The queen did not respond, but Vela knew she was watching, waiting, expecting failure. Vela looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there was her homeworld, full of people who had thrown her away. But here, on this strange metal ship, surrounded by loud and emotional humans, she was starting to feel something she had never felt before. She was starting to feel like she belonged. The first tremor came on the 12th day. Vela was sitting with Taiho in the observation deck, watching a distant nebula paint colors across the darkness. They had been talking about Earth stories, about heroes and adventures, and love that conquered all. Vela had laughed at some of the tales, finding them naive but charming. Then her hand shook, just once, just slightly, but Taiho noticed. Vela? She looked at her hand. It was still now, but she could feel something wrong inside her, like a string being pulled too tight. It is starting, she said quietly. The medical bay became her second home after that. The human doctors ran test after test, trying to understand what was happening inside her body. They had never treated a Serani before. They were working blind, using what little information they had. The results were not good. Her hormone levels are spiking, Dr. Kim said to Taiho. The old doctor's face was grim. The Verishin is accelerating faster than we expected. Her body is producing chemicals we cannot identify, and they are starting to affect her nervous system. Taiho sat by Vela's bed and held her hand. She was resting, but her sleep was troubled. Small tremors ran through her body every few minutes. Her skin, usually a soft blue, had become pale and gray. How long? Taeho asked. At this rate, maybe 2 weeks before serious organ damage begins. After that, Dr. Kim shook his head. I am sorry. We are doing everything we can, but her biology is too different. We do not have the knowledge to treat this. Taeho did not leave her side that night. He watched her breathe, watched her face twist with pain, even in sleep. He had never felt so helpless in his life. When Vela woke, her eyes were dim. The glow that Sarani were known for was fading. You should not be here, she said. Her voice was weak. You have duties, responsibilities. You are my responsibility, Taeho said. Vela smiled sadly. I have caused you so much trouble. You should have let me die at the palace. It would have been easier. Nothing worth doing is easy. She laughed, but it turned into a coughing fit. Taeho helped her sit up, rubbing her back until the coughing stopped. Tell me something, Vela said when she could speak again. Tell me something true, something real. Taeho thought for a moment. When I was young, my mother was sick, very sick. The doctor said she would die, but my father refused to accept it. He sat by her bed every day, talked to her, read to her, held her hand. He told her stories about the future, about what they would do when she got better, about the places they would see. Did she survive? Yes, the doctors called it a miracle. But I do not think it was. I think it was love. My father loved her so much that he gave her something to fight for, a reason to hold on. Vela's eyes were wet. That is a beautiful story. It is not a story. It is the truth. And I am telling you because I want you to know something. Taeho squeezed her hand gently. You are not alone in this. You have something to fight for now. You have people who care about you, so do not give up. Please. Vela looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. I will try, she whispered. The days became harder. The tremors grew worse. Vela began having memory lapses, forgetting where she was or what they had talked about. Sometimes she would wake up screaming from nightmares she could not describe. The light hurt her eyes, so Taeho dimmed the room and sat with her in the darkness. Through it all, he stayed. He read to her when she could not focus. He played soft music when the silence became too heavy. He held her hand when the tremors came and did not let go until they passed. Park Jisoo came to visit one evening. She brought flowers from the ship's garden, a small attempt at comfort. But when she saw Vela's condition, her face fell. She looks worse, Jisoo said quietly to Taeho, standing outside the room. I know. The medical team is out of options. They say the only thing that might save her is completing the bond. Taeho was silent. Taeho, Jisoo pressed, I know you want to do this the right way. I respect that. But if she dies, she will not die. You cannot know that. You are not a doctor. You are not a Sarani. You are just a man who… Jisoo stopped herself. Who cares too much? Is that a bad thing? Jisoo sighed. No, but it might destroy you. She left. Taeho returned to Vela's bedside. That night, Vela woke more alert than she had been in days. She looked at Taeho with clear eyes, and he felt hope rise in his chest. I need to tell you something, she said. What is it? Vela hesitated, her hands twisted in the blanket. Among my people, it is shameful to admit feelings for someone of a lesser species. It shows weakness, corruption. My ancestors would curse me if they knew. Taeho waited. But I do not care anymore, Vela continued. I have spent my whole life being ashamed of what I am, hiding, pretending, waiting for someone to decide my worth. I am tired of it. She looked at him, and her violet eyes were burning with something fierce. I feel something for you, Taeho. I do not know what to call it. It is warm and frightening and makes me want to live when I should have given up long ago. My people would say it is the Verashine talking, just biology and desperation. But I know it is more than that. I know it because when I am with you, I am not afraid. For the first time in my life, I am not afraid. Taeho felt his heart pounding. He reached out and touched her face gently. Her skin was cool, but her eyes were fire. Among humans, he said, we call that love. Love. Vela tasted the word. Is it supposed to hurt this much? Sometimes. The best things often do. She laughed and tears fell down her cheeks. I am crying again. I have cried more since meeting you than in my entire life. You have ruined me, human. Taiho smiled. Good. You needed ruining. He leaned forward and kissed her forehead gently. It was soft, innocent, asking nothing in return. Vela closed her eyes and leaned into the touch. For a moment, everything was peaceful. Then her body seized. The tremors came back harder than ever, shaking her whole frame. Alarms started beeping as the medical equipment detected the spike in her vitals. Dr. Kim rushed in with his team. They pushed Taiho aside and worked frantically to stabilize her. Vela's eyes rolled back, her body arching off the bed. We are losing her, someone shouted. Taiho watched in horror as the woman he had grown to love convulsed in agony. He had never felt so powerless, so useless. He was just a diplomat, just a man. What could he possibly do against biology itself? After what felt like hours, Vela stabilized. She lay unconscious, her breathing shallow and weak. The medical team exchanged grim looks. She does not have much time left, Dr. Kim said quietly. Days at most. Taiho sat down heavily. His whole body felt numb. Days. After everything they had been through, after everything they had shared, he had only days. He looked at Vela's pale face and made a decision. He would not let her die. He would find a way, or he would die trying. And if the Queen of the Serani Empire stood in his way, she would learn what humans were capable of when they fought for someone they loved. Taiho stood in the communication room of the horizon, staring at the blank screen before him. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing. What he was about to do could end his career. It could start a war. It could destroy everything humans had worked for in their relations with the Serani Empire. He did not care. Park Jisu stood beside him, worry clear on her face. Are you sure about this? Once you open this channel, there is no going back. I am sure. The captain does not approve. The captain does not have to approve. I am not speaking as a representative of Earth. I am speaking as myself. Jisu sighed. You are going to get yourself killed. Maybe, but at least I will go down fighting. He pressed the button. The screen flickered to life, and after a long moment of darkness, the face of Queen Nira appeared. She looked exactly as she had at the banquet, beautiful and cold and ancient. Her glowing eyes fixed on Taiho with something that might have been curiosity. Human, she said. This is unexpected. I was told you had refused official communication. This is not official, Taiho replied. This is personal. The Queen raised an elegant eyebrow. Personal? How interesting. And what personal matter brings you to contact me directly in violation of diplomatic protocol? Taiho took a deep breath. Your niece is dying. I am aware. And you do not care. The Queen's expression did not change. I gave her a chance. More than she deserved, some would say. If she cannot complete the bond, that is not my concern. Taiho felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice level. You sent her to us to die. You knew no human would want to own another person. You knew we would struggle with our conscience while she suffered. This was never about alliance. It was about testing us. About watching us fail. And if it was, then you are crueler than I thought. And I thought very little of you to begin with. The Queen's eyes narrowed. For a moment, Taiho thought she would cut the connection. Instead, she leaned forward slightly, her attention sharpened. You dare speak to me this way? I have ruled for 8,000 years. I have seen species rise and fall. Your entire civilization is a heartbeat compared to my life. And you dare to judge me? Yes, Taiho said. I dare. Because your age and power mean nothing if you use them to hurt innocent people. Vela did nothing wrong. Her only crime was being born to the wrong parents. And for that, you sentenced her to death. Her bloodline is impure. She would have weakened our people. Your people are already weak, Taiho shot back. You live for thousands of years, but you have forgotten how to feel. You call us primitive because we show our emotions, but at least we have them. At least we care about each other. What do you have? Cold palaces and empty rituals and the power to throw away anyone who does not fit your perfect standard. The Queen was silent. Her face was unreadable, but something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or something deeper. You love her, the queen said. It was not a question. Yes, a Serani female, a being who is not even of your species. You would start a conflict with my empire for her? I would burn the galaxy down for her if I had to. The words hung in the air. Taiho meant every one of them. The queen studied him for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, softer somehow, less cold. When I was young, she said, before I became queen, I knew love, true love, as you humans call it, a male of common blood. He made me laugh. He made me feel alive. But I was told I could not have him. I was meant for greater things. My bloodline had to be preserved. Taiho listened in silence. I let him go. I did what was expected of me. I became queen. I ruled with wisdom and strength. But I never loved again. Not truly. The fire I felt with him, I buried it so deep that I forgot it existed. The queen's eyes met Taiho's through the screen. Until now. Until I see it in you. The same fire. The same foolish, beautiful, impossible fire. Then let her live, Taiho said. Let us try to save her. Not because of politics or alliances. Just because she deserves a chance. And if you fail? If she dies anyway? Then I will carry that grief for the rest of my life. But at least she will have known love before the end. At least she will have known that someone fought for her. The queen was quiet for what felt like an eternity. Then slowly, something changed in her face. The coldness melted, just a little. What remained was ancient sadness. I sent her to you expecting you to fail, the queen admitted. I expected you to prove that humans were weak, selfish, unworthy of true alliance. Instead, you have shown me something I had forgotten existed. What is that? Courage. The courage to love something you might lose. The courage to fight for someone when all reason says you should give up. We Serani live so long that we have become afraid of loss. We close our hearts to protect ourselves. But you, she shook her head slowly, you open your hearts wide, knowing they will be broken. That is not weakness. That is strength I had forgotten. Taiho felt hope spark in his chest. Then help us, please. There must be something that can save her. The queen considered this. The bond is biological. It cannot be faked or forced, but there is something the old texts speak of. A true bond, formed not from duty, but from love. It is said to be more powerful than any other. If you truly love her, and she truly loves you, it is possible that the bond could form naturally. How? I do not know the details. The true bond has not been seen in thousands of years. We thought it was a myth. The queen paused. But perhaps myths exist because they were once truths. Taiho nodded. It was not much, but it was something. A thread of hope in the darkness. There is something else, the queen said. When she wakes, if she wakes, tell her that I am sorry. I thought I was saving her from shame. I did not realize I was condemning her to despair. Tell her yourself. When she is well, bring her home. Apologize in person. The queen almost smiled. You are bold, human. I could have you executed for speaking to me this way. But you will not. No, I will not. She straightened in her throne. Go, save your love if you can, and know that whatever happens, you have my respect. That is not something I give easily. The screen went dark. Taiho stood alone in the communication room, his hands shaking now that the confrontation was over. He had done it. He had faced down the ruler of an interstellar empire and demanded mercy. And somehow, impossibly, it had worked. He ran to the medical bay, his heart pounding. Vela was still unconscious, still pale and weak, but he knelt by her bed and took her hand. I am not giving up, he whispered to her. The queen says there is a way, a true bond, formed from love. I do not know how to make it happen, but I know that what I feel for you is real. So please hold on, fight, give me time to figure this out. Vela did not respond, but her fingers, weak as they were, seemed to tighten around his. And in that small movement, Taiho found all the strength he needed. He would save her. He would find a way to complete the bond, not through force or duty, but through the love that had grown between them against all odds. The queen had called it foolish and impossible, But humans had built their entire civilization on foolish, impossible dreams. This would be no different. 3 days passed after Taiho's conversation with Queen Nira. 3 days of sitting by Vela's bedside, talking to her unconscious form, playing music, reading stories. 3 days of hoping and praying to whatever forces might be listening. The medical team had done everything they could. Her body was kept stable with machines and medications, but everyone knew it was only delaying the end. Without the bond, Vela would die. The doctors gave her 4 days at most. Taiho refused to accept it. He spent hours researching everything he could find about Sarani bonding. Most of it was useless, technical data about hormones and biological processes. But buried in old texts and forgotten records, he found references to the true bond the Queen had mentioned. It was different from normal Sarani bonding. Normal bonds were formed through physical intimacy and a deliberate exchange of energy. They were calculated, controlled, almost mechanical. But the true bond was something else entirely. It was said to form spontaneously when two beings shared a deep emotional connection, a connection of souls rather than bodies. The true bond was considered a myth by modern Sarani, but Taiho had seen too many impossible things in his life to dismiss myths entirely. On the morning of the 4th day, Vela opened her eyes. Taiho was dozing in the chair beside her bed, exhausted from sleepless nights. He woke to the sound of his name. Taiho! Her voice was barely a whisper. He was at her side instantly, holding her hand, searching her face. I am here. I am here. How do you feel? Vela smiled weakly. Terrible, but warm, strangely warm. Taiho pressed his forehead to her hand. Tears he had been holding back for days finally fell. I thought I was going to lose you. You stayed with me. I heard you sometimes, through the darkness. Your voice, your music, they were like lights guiding me back. I would never leave you. Vela reached up and touched his face. Her hand was still weak, trembling with effort, but her eyes were brighter than they had been in weeks. Something is different, she said. I can feel it, inside me. The Verashin is still there, but it is quieter, less demanding. Taiho called for the medical team. They ran tests while he stood nervously by the door. When Dr. Kim emerged, his face wore an expression of pure confusion. I do not understand it, the doctor said. Her hormone levels have stabilized. The cellular decay has stopped. Something has changed fundamentally in her biology, but I have no idea what caused it. Is she going to be okay? Dr. Kim hesitated. I cannot say for certain, but whatever was happening to her has slowed dramatically. She is not out of danger, but she is no longer declining. It is like something is protecting her from the inside. Taiho returned to Vela's room. She was sitting up now, weak but alert. When she saw him, her face lit up in a way that made his heart ache. The doctors say I am stable, she said. I heard. They do not know why. Taiho sat on the edge of her bed. I think I might. He told her about his conversation with the Queen, about the true bond, about everything he had learned from the old texts. Vela listened in silence, her violet eyes growing wider. You spoke to the Queen like that? She asked when he finished. You accused her of cruelty? You told her you would burn the galaxy for me? Yes. Vela stared at him. Then she laughed, a real laugh, clear and bright. You foolish human. You wonderful, foolish, impossible human. She pulled him close and kissed him. It was not planned. It was not calculated. It was simply two people who had found each other against all odds, expressing something that words could not capture. And in that moment, something happened. Taiho felt it like a wave of warmth spreading through his chest. It was not physical exactly, more like an emotion so powerful it became tangible. He felt Vela's presence in his mind, not as an intrusion, but as a welcome guest. Her joy, her relief, her love, all of it flowed into him and mixed with his own feelings, until he could not tell where he ended, and she began. Vela gasped and pulled back. Her eyes were glowing brightly, brighter than any Sarani he had ever seen. Her skin flushed with color, the pale gray giving way to vibrant blue. I feel you, she whispered. Inside me. Your warmth, your love. It is filling all the empty places. I feel you too, Taiho said. And he did. He could sense her presence like a second heartbeat. A part of himself he had not known was missing. The medical equipment went haywire. Alarms blared and screens flashed with readings that made no sense. Dr. Kim rushed in, followed by his team, all of them staring at the displays in disbelief. Her hormone levels are normalizing, someone said. The Verashine markers they are disappearing. That is impossible, Dr. Kim muttered. That is completely impossible. But the readings did not lie. Whatever had been killing Vela was fading, replaced by something stable and healthy. Her body was healing itself, powered by an energy that the machines could detect but not identify. Taiho looked at Vela. She looked back at him, and they both understood. The bond had formed, not through ritual or force or biological necessity, but through genuine love. The kind of love that the Serani had forgotten existed. The kind of love that humans carried in their short, burning lives like a flame that refused to go out. Over the next week, Vela recovered completely. Her strength returned, her mind cleared, and her eyes glowed with a light that seemed to come from somewhere deep within. The medical team studied her endlessly, trying to understand what had happened. They wrote reports and ran tests and debated theories. But Vela and Tejo knew the truth. The bond had changed them both. They could feel each other now, a constant presence that was comforting rather than intrusive. When one was sad, the other knew. When one was happy, the other felt it too. Among my people, Vela said one evening, as they sat together in the observation deck, a bond like this would be considered sacred. The old texts say that true bonded pairs were revered as blessed by the ancestors. And now? Now they would say it is impossible, that a Serani and a human could never form such a connection. She smiled and leaned against his shoulder. They would be wrong. Taiho wrapped his arm around her. Through their bond, he felt her contentment, her peace, her love, and he sent his own feelings back to her, a wordless conversation that needed no speech. The Queen will want to know what happened, Vela said quietly. This changes everything. If humans and Serani can form true bonds, it means we are not as different as we thought. Will she be angry? I do not think so. I think she might be hopeful. You showed her something she had forgotten. Maybe this will remind her of what our people could be. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars drift by. Somewhere out there was Earth, Taiho's home, and somewhere else was the Serani homeworld, Vela's home. But here, on this ship, between the stars, they had found something more important than either. They had found each other. They had found home. Park Jisu appeared in the doorway. She looked at them with a mixture of exasperation and fondness. Captain Hana wants to see both of you, she said. The Queen has sent a message. Apparently we are returning to Serani space. Taiho and Vela exchanged glances. Through their bond, they shared a moment of nervous anticipation. Ready? He asked. Vela took his hand, her fingers intertwined with his, a perfect fit. Ready, she said. Together they walked toward whatever came next. The horizon emerged from faster-than-light travel above the Serani homeworld. The planet hung in space like a jewel, its surface covered in crystal cities that caught the light of 3 suns. Vela stood at the observation window, watching her birth world grow larger. Through their bond, Taiho felt her mix of emotions, the fear and hope and uncertainty all tangled together. You do not have to do this, he said quietly. Yes, I do. Vela turned to him. Her eyes were bright with determination. I need to face them. I need to show them what I have become, what we have become. The ship descended through the atmosphere. Below them, the capital city spread out in geometric patterns of impossible beauty. Towers of living crystal reached toward the sky. Gardens of light bloomed between buildings. It was breathtaking and cold, all precision without warmth. A formal escort met them at the landing platform. Serani guards in gleaming armor stood in perfect rows. Behind them, nobles in flowing robes watched with expressions of controlled curiosity. Word had spread about the human who defied the Queen. Everyone wanted to see him for themselves. Taiho walked beside Vela, holding her hand openly. Among Serani, such displays were considered inappropriate. But Taiho did not care about Serani customs anymore. He cared about showing Vela that she was not alone. The Great Hall looked the same as it had weeks ago, but everything felt different. Taiho was no longer an intimidated diplomat hoping for alliance. He was a man who had faced death and love and come out the other side changed. Queen Nera sat on her throne, watching their approach. Her face was unreadable, but Taiho could feel tension in the room. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen. He stopped at the proper distance and bowed slightly. Vela bowed deeper beside him. "Your Majesty," Taiho said, "we have returned." The queen's gaze moved from him to Vela. Something flickered in those ancient eyes. "You survived." "I did," Vela said. Her voice was steady. "Thanks to him, the true bond." The queen spoke the words carefully as if testing their weight. "My advisors say it is impossible. They say the readings from your ship must be errors, that a human could not possibly form such a connection with a Sereni. Your advisors are wrong." Gasps echoed through the hall. No one spoke to the queen this way, but Taiho stood firm and Vela stood with him. Queen Nera rose from her throne. She descended the steps slowly, her gown flowing behind her like liquid starlight. The guards tensed. The nobles held their breath. She stopped directly in front of Vela. "Show me," she said. Vela glanced at Taiho. He nodded slightly. Through their bond, he sent her courage and love. Vela closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they blazed with light. The glow spread from her eyes to her skin, illuminating her from within. And beside her, Taiho felt the warmth of the bond surge through him, connecting them visibly in a way that everyone could see. A thread of golden light appeared between them, linking their hearts. It pulsed with energy, with life, with something that had no name in any language. The nobles stumbled back in shock. Even the guards broke their perfect formation to stare. Queen Nera watched with wide eyes. For the first time since Taiho had met her, she looked genuinely surprised. "It is real," she whispered. "The old stories, they were true." The light faded, but the presence of the bond remained. Vela took a shaky breath. Taiho steadied her with a hand on her back. The queen turned to face her court. When she spoke, her voice carried to every corner of the vast hall. "For 8,000 years, I have ruled this empire. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have guided our people through countless challenges. And in all that time, I believed that the true bond was a myth, a fairy tale from a simpler age." She paused, letting her words settle. "I was wrong." The court was silent. No one dared to breathe. The humans came to us, and we saw only their short lives and loud emotions. We thought them primitive, unworthy of true partnership. But we were blind. What we called weakness, they call strength. What we dismissed as chaos, they call passion. They feel more in their brief years than we allow ourselves to feel in millennia. The queen looked back at Taiho and Vela. "This human stood before me and accused me of cruelty. He told me I had forgotten how to love. I was furious, but I was also ashamed. Because he was right." She returned to her throne, but she did not sit. Instead, she stood before it, addressing her people from a position of authority, but also openness. "Vela was sent away because I believed she was unworthy. Because our laws say that impure blood must be hidden, removed, forgotten. But look at her now. She stands here, bonded to a being from another world, glowing with power that has not been seen in 10,000 years. If that is unworthiness, then our standards are lies." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some faces showed shock, others showed curiosity, and a few showed something that might have been hope. Taiho stepped forward. "Your Majesty, may I speak?" The queen inclined her head. "I came here expecting to negotiate trade agreements and border treaties. I never expected to fall in love. But life rarely goes as planned." He looked around the hall at all the watching Serani. "Your people have lived for thousands of years, built wonders that my kind can barely imagine. But somewhere along the way, you stopped letting yourselves feel. You became afraid of loss, so you stopped allowing attachment. You saw emotion as weakness, so you buried it." He took Vela's hand again, holding it up so everyone could see. "This bond is not weakness. It is the strongest thing I have ever known. It saved Vela's life. It changed both of us. And it proves that our species are not as different as we thought. We can connect." We can love. We can build something together that neither of us could build alone. But, he continued, his voice growing firmer, alliance cannot be built on gifts of living beings. And if the Serani want true friendship with Earth, things must change. No more treating people as property. No more throwing away those who do not fit your perfect standards. Real partnership means equality, respect, choice. The hall was completely silent. Taiho felt sweat on his palms. He had just demanded that an ancient empire change its fundamental practices. It was bold to the point of insanity. Queen Nera looked at him for a long, heavy moment. Then slowly, she did something that made every Serani in the room gasp. She bowed her head. In 10,000 years, she said quietly, no outsider has spoken such truths in this hall. No outsider has demanded change and earned respect instead of punishment. You are either the bravest being I have ever met, or the most foolish. Maybe both, Taiho said. The queen almost smiled. Maybe both. Very well, human. Your terms are accepted. The practice of bonding by arrangement will be reconsidered. Those who were cast aside for impure blood will be welcomed back, and the Serani Empire will treat humanity as true equals, worthy of genuine alliance. She raised her head and looked out at her court. Let this day mark the beginning of a new era. Let it be remembered that a human taught us what we had forgotten. And let Vela and her bonded stand as proof that even the oldest ways can be renewed. The court erupted. Some nobles protested loudly, others cheered, and still others stood in stunned silence. The carefully controlled Serani society was experiencing something it had not felt in ages, genuine change. But Taiho barely noticed. He was looking at Vela, and she was looking at him. Through their bond, they shared a moment of pure joy. They had done it. Against all odds, they had won. Later, as the horizon prepared to depart, Vela stood at the observation deck one last time. Her homeworld hung below them, beautiful and complicated, and no longer her prison. Will you miss it? Taiho asked. Parts of it, but I have a new home now. She turned to him and smiled. Several, actually. This ship, Earth when we visit, and you. You are my home. Taiho pulled her close. I never thought my life would turn out like this. A diplomat in love with an alien princess. It sounds like one of those stories I told you about. The foolish, impossible stories? The best kind. Vela laughed and leaned into him. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and full of possibility. What happens now? She asked. Taiho thought about it. We go back to Earth. We introduce you to human food and human music and human chaos. We face whatever challenges come our way together, and we spend every moment making the most of the time we have. That sounds perfect. He kissed her forehead. Then let us begin. The horizon jumped to faster than light speed, carrying them toward the future. Behind them, the Serani homeworld faded into the distance. Ahead of them lay Earth, and beyond that, an entire galaxy waiting to be explored. Vela rested her head on Taiho's shoulder. He wrapped his arm around her. And through their bond, two hearts beat as one, a human and a Serani, bound together by something stronger than biology or politics or ancient laws. Bound by love, and that was more than enough.